So here we go. Hi everyone, Chris here from IELTS Advantage with another very special success story. I have one of my students called Olga, and we were just talking about how proud I am of her because she embodies many of the things that I've been teaching over the years. And she's not only extremely talented, but she's extremely hardworking, and she overcame her IELTS difficulties through all of the personal qualities that I've been talking about over the past, few years. And yeah, I'm really, really proud of her, and I want to share her story with you. So Olga, can we start off by just you giving a little bit of information about who you are?
Yeah, totally. I've been born and raised in Siberia, Russia, in a tiny, tiny town. And 5 years ago, I moved to Cyprus. Yeah, and I've been living here for 5 years. I'm unemployed now since I can't work here due to visa restrictions. Instead, I'm studying English and trying to
But you won't
find
be you
something.
won't be unemployed for very long now that you've got tell everyone what score you got in your IELTS test.
It was like reading 8.5, listening 8.5, writing 7.5, and speaking 7.5.
Amazing.
And it was my first try.
Wow. Yeah, so to get 8 overall on your
Yeah.
first try is unbelievable. And can you tell people a little bit about your struggles with IELTS? So when you first started doing it, what did you find difficult about IELTS, and how did you? So we're going to talk mostly about how you went from someone who couldn't get it, a band aid, to someone who got it, and help people through this video through that.
Yeah. Oh, well, as an introvert who don't have a really varied circle of friends and people to whom I can talk, I find it really difficult to talk to people and to cultivate my speaking skills. Also, writing wasn't great. I hadn't read anything prior to the course. Only one or two essays, ever. So I had to start from scratch. And it was the main difficulty, as I was like, what should I do at all? I have this question. I need an introduction and conclusion. I understand that, but what should I do?
It's a very common thing because a lot of people a lot of people have very high scores for reading and listening, but very low scores for writing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think, like, why is this? And there's a very simple reason why that is. People just don't write that much. I mean, people text and they'll send a short email, but very rarely, unless you're doing like a degree at university which requires lots of essays or things like that. Like, people are not writing that much, and definitely not writing much in a foreign language. So it is very, very challenging for people. So
Yeah.
you mentioned two very important things there, and that's what I think I'll focus on in this video. So first of all, speaking, for somebody who doesn't have a chance to speak to anybody, we might talk about that a little bit, and then we'll talk about writing. So what to do. So when you see that, that blank piece of paper and the question at the top, how do we fill that up? So does that sound okay if we talk about those
Yeah.
two things? Excellent.
Great.
So yeah, something that a lot of people ask about, and I don't think it's as big of a problem these days as it was, even 10 or 20 years ago. What do you do if you're, like yourself, you were living in a tiny village in Siberia, or you're living on a small island at the moment, and you don't have a lot of English speakers around you? How would you get over that hurdle and practice your speaking?
Well, you have the internet. It's the best source ever for a small amount of money, to get a Wi-Fi or broadband connection, so you can find someone to whom you can talk to. Although I decided to find a teacher so I can got a constant feedback
Hmm.
because I made a lot of mistakes, and I'm still making a lot of mistakes. So I decided to find a teacher, and I found one. And it wasn't really expensive because I had several other students talking to me at the same time. So I had lessons for like 15 months. And the only thing I did, like, besides that, I practiced my pronunciation. It's the only thing, like, just for me, because I really like how the English language sounds. So I read and listened to a lot about theory. So how do you place your tongue? How do you pronounce every single sound? And I practiced a lot. So I read aloud and did this shadow thing when you talk, when someone is talking, like you watch a video and then like highlight every content word and try to um, get this intonation right.
Yeah, kind of like mini listening, or when we talked about that before, where you just, instead of listening to, let's say, a 30-minute TV
Yeah.
show, just listen to one sentence or two sentences and write down that sentence. And then let's say you're focusing on intonation, just put arrows up and down on the sentence where you think the intonation is, and then you can practice that. Or if it was, say, sentence stress, if you're working on that, write two sentences or three sentences out from what you hear, and then underline the syllables or the words that are stressed. And it's not no more complicated than that.
Yeah.
Obviously, it does take a lot of practice. Also, as a Russian speaker, English is very different from Russian. For example, intonation. There are a lot of Russian speakers have problems with intonation, and then there are certain sounds in in English that Russian speakers have. So it's not picking on the Russians, but every nationality or every native language has certain problems. For example, Spanish speakers have problems with the. They say, for example, video instead of video. German speakers say video instead of video. Vietnamese speakers have problems with the and the. Every nationality or every, it comes from your mother tongue. So it's about establishing those issues and working on that. And that principle can be applied to writing, reading,
Yeah,
finding out
definitely.
what your issues are and working on those issues. So if somebody was, let's say, sitting in a small village in whatever country, and they said, how would you help them find people to speak with, either by paying a little bit of money or for free? How would they do that? Because a lot of people just want to be told exactly what to do.
Well, they can go to some website which do that. So PayPal, as an example, where you can just write, I want to learn English, and they want to learn Russian, maybe. And you can find a partner to talk to based on this connection. Or you can find someone who likes Star Wars and talk about that. And it's the best thing ever because you can find someone to talk to about something that bothers you or that interests you really much. And this passion can create interest in the subject.
Yes, it's with the internet, really the limit to speaking opportunities is your imagination or the amount of work you're prepared to do to go and find that. So, for example, the guy who, my web developer, he is Mexican and he speaks with like an Irish accent, and which is crazy because he grew up and he's lived in Mexico his whole life. And I said, "Where did you get that from?" And he said, "Through playing computer games." He's a gamer and he's been speaking to people from where I live over the internet for since he was a kid, and he has the best English ever. So that's just not everybody should become a gamer, but like for example, I've had other students who got a job in Starbucks, or I've had other students who used language exchange. So they were teaching. I had one Vietnamese student who was teaching an American guy Vietnamese, and he taught her English in exchange. Or there are many, 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 many platforms out there where you'll find native English speakers that will trade their time just to have a chat with you. You know, they'll give you a little bit of feedback and things like that. Obviously, we can't go into every single platform in every single way, but guys, if you just use Google, you will find, an unbelievable number of speaking opportunities. So the three things that I would focus on if you need help with speaking would be practice. You obviously have to open your mouth and get words coming out of your mouth, and that is simple, but it is the most important thing. The second thing is you need feedback. So you need somebody not stopping you every 2 seconds, because that will mess up your fluency a little bit, but someone listening to you and maybe talking about your pronunciation issues or your grammar issues or your vocabulary issues or your fluency issues, and pointing out a few things for you to work on. So you're practicing, you're getting your feedback, and then at the end of each session, you're having a few things that you could work on to improve. Do you think that? Do you agree with me, Olga? Because
Yeah,
you're the student, so
absolutely.
you're the person who probably knows more than I do in certain situations. Cool. So the next thing that we'll talk about is writing. So, when you get that blank piece of paper and it has the question at the top, I was speaking to another student yesterday and they said the exact same thing as you. How do I even begin? How do I start? I don't know where how to start thinking about, writing an essay. How would you help someone with that, or what advice would you give to someone?
Well, first of all, you need some information how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I browsed the internet, I found several sources, and that was my mistake. Since I found myself in a situation where I had this cognitive dissonance, so many things at once, so many advice. How can I overcome this? So many things to think about. And then because of that, I had to find something simple. So I found your website and your advice were really simple. And this appealed to me really much, very much. So I joined the course and then I started doing everything I learned the theory of this small part, like the introduction, and then I practiced a lot. First of all, it didn't bother me that much that I wrote some garbage. I know that, and it took me 3 hours to write my first essay. But I tried to implement everything that I learned, some pieces of advice, and I get better somehow with practice. I wrote 41 essays and 14 letters during 3 months period. And it took me really a long time to start to do it, but I decided, whatever, I just can do it. The thing is, it was psychologically difficult for me to do it at home, so I found a place without distractions. So I used a coffee shop, like a Starbucks or Costa Coffee, where I found a really great place, a sturdy table, and I had a cup of latte, and I didn't have anything with me besides this piece of paper and some notes. So I had to do something. So it motivated me really much to do.
Well, one thing, and I think there are many, many reasons why you got, a Band-Aid overall. But I think if I had to pick one reason, it's something that you've mentioned about speaking and about writing, is that you didn't care that you made mistakes. But when you made those mistakes, you learned from them. So that simply is the best piece of advice that you could give to any student learning anything, not just IELTS, any sort of skill that they're trying to learn, that you try it and you try it without trying to be perfect, because if you try and be perfect, you'll give up immediately.
Yeah.
So accept the fact that you're a learner and you're making many, many, many mistakes, but you're okay with that. But not only are you okay with that, you're going to take each of those mistakes and use it to improve, and you will gradually go up and up and up and up. Because what happens with a lot of students is they come to us and they're like, my exam is next week, help me get a Band-Aid. It's like, it's like we turn more students away than we accept. There's a lot of students, like we had 3 students yesterday that said, take my money. And we said, I'm sorry, we cannot help you. Like, please go, like not go away, but it's totally unrealistic for us to help you in 10. One of them, their exam was in 10 days. Another person, their exam was in 11 days. And also what we do before we accept people onto the course many times is we ask them the question, how are you with failure? How are you with criticism? Because unless you have that attitude that, many failures and not failing the test over and over again, but, me giving you feedback and you learning from your mistakes is the most important thing. So thank you very much for that. And the other thing that you said was, how to start with the writing process and how to help, how to learn how to write an essay. First, you need input. So you need to learn the theory and you need to learn how to do it. However, there's so much conflicting information out there. Even if you never look at my stuff, if you're watching this video, even if you never look at my stuff, pick one teacher. It doesn't have to be me, but pick one person, because your writing will be a reflection of your thinking. If you're going into the exam with 7 different ways to write an introduction, are you going to write a good introduction? What do you think, Olga?
Nope. Not a chance.
Yeah, because there's no one way. A lot of people think that there's one way to write an essay. There are many correct ways and there are many incorrect ways. And that's why there's so much, so many conflicting opinions out there on how to do it. Some of them are great and some of them are correct. Some of them aren't. So what you need to do is you need to find one teacher or one method. It doesn't have to be me. It can be someone else who you trust. And how you can find out if you trust them or not is, are they getting results? Do they have students like Olga who have done it, have gone through the system and have got the scores that you need? Would you agree with that, or would you add anything to that, Olga?
I can add something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I totally agree. I can add that with writing, reading really helped me and listening to stuff. So to come up with some idea, it's a challenge. So I began to read a lot of popular science magazines like Scientific American, National Geographic, and magazine after magazine, I began to think differently. So a lot of thoughts just came up.
Mm-hmm. So it seems like you educated yourself.
Yeah.
So on top of learning how to write an essay or how to get a Band-Aid, you took a far more holistic approach to it, and combined improving your mind and educating yourself at the same time. Because that one of the things that a lot of people ask about is, what if I get a question that I don't know anything about? Or, well, read. If you read every day, and it doesn't have to be more than 10 minutes a day. In 10 minutes a day, you can read several news articles, you could read a magazine article, you could read a blog post. Obviously more than 10 minutes a day is better, but many people think that it's a huge undertaking, but it's as simple as on your way to work on the bus reading, taking your phone out and reading, a few news articles. It can be as simple as that. And I think that one of the things he struck on is you need input. So whether that is, a course teaching you how to write, or reading magazine articles or news articles, and then what you need is you need to have output. So you need to practice, but then you need that output. You get feedback on that and improve that. So that feedback loop is really, really important. And again, I think that's why you've been so successful. It's good to talk to you and I love talking to students and finding out why they are successful so that we can help more people in the future.
Yeah.
So what are you able to do now, Olga, with your Band 8? What are you hoping to do in the future?
Well, I have to wait for my husband to get the same result, or kind of. And then I'm going to maybe immigrate to some country which is bigger than a tiny, tiny island of Cyprus.
And what career are you thinking of going into?
I'm thinking about taking another exam, academic, and go to a college to become a confectioner. So I am a confectioner, but I studied in Russia.
A confectioner as in sweets, or am
Yeah,
I
sweets. Yeah,
Really?
cookie decorator.
My little boy would absolutely adore you. He lives for sweets. His birthday is not until July, and he's been talking about his birthday cake for the last 2 months. So every day he's just talking about the sweets that he's going to have on his birthday cake and everything. So yeah.
That's adorable. And I also has a law degree.
Oh, same as me.
Yeah.
And you don't, like me, you don't want to be a lawyer though?
No, I didn't. I found it really boring as hell.
Yeah, it is pretty boring. It is pretty boring. Yeah, I enjoy teaching much more than, or I think I'm a much better teacher than I was a lawyer. So everything worked out. So I'll get in the future if you need anything, if your husband needs any help or you need any help in the future, I really appreciate you sharing those things with people. And I think there's a huge amount of stuff that people can learn from this video, because as we talked about at this before this video, you are very talented, obviously, but you got that talent through hard work and your attitude. Obviously hard work helps, but just working hard is not enough. That attitude of I'm going to practice and I'm going to make mistakes and I'm going to learn from those mistakes and I'm going to get feedback on my work and I'm going to just constantly get better and constantly improve. If people do that, then they're going to get whatever score that they need. It might take a longer time than they expected, but really with that attitude, you can achieve anything. So thank you very much, Olga. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It was nice talking to you.
It was nice talking to you, Olga. And I like your t-shirt as well. Are you a Star Wars fan? Is that?
Yeah, I am.
Did you? Cool. We can talk about that then after the video. All right, Olga. Thank you very much. I'll see you again.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.